Welcome back to the Ready State. We're continuing our series on self-care on some very common tendon problems. So we're voodoo flossing the Achilles today. Now, if you've ever had heel cord pain, it's a problem because if you're a busy person, you can easily take 10,000 steps in a day, and that aggregates into a lot of motion. So this heel cord, let's be honest, is pretty bomber. And the reason it's bomber is that human beings are designed to walk, we're designed to move. But modern humans, sometimes we end up in weird shoes, or our feet get weak, or we run really hard and go back to work. And it's easy to get congested and end up causing issues in this crucial aspect. I mean, to heel cord someone, you know, dude, that you can't walk, you're done, right? So what we want to do today is start and appreciate that pain in this area can be driven by a lot of things. It can be you have a genetic component for dysfunction in collagen synthesis, right? That's as important. You know, your previous injury history, your movement quality, how stiff the tissues are, how much, you know, how you eat, all of it matters. Comma, still is a problem. So we know we're going to work upstream on the calf. We know we're going to work upstream on some of the deep flexor muscles, and this is why we go after long lever mobilizations and short lever mobilizations like the bone saw trying to feed slack, right? Because you've got a whole bunch of big powerful muscles that flex the foot that arise deep here, like the tibialis posterior, for example. So what we're thinking is all of these things can contribute to referral pain here, but what we're interested in today is taking on and making sure that at the very least the skin, the fascia, the connective tissue over that tendon and tendon sheath is healthy and or at least articulates. So you can see how I am able to grab the skin of my Achilles here. Even when I put myself under some pretty big tension, I can still get the skin to slide. The first person who ever sort of brought this to our attention was Greg Johnson, as a physio in Steamboat Springs, and he started doing this fascial release with percussion. And he was the first person who really started, in my awareness, of course everyone's been working on fascia forever, sorry Ida Rolf, but the idea here was he was using this motion to free up the tissue in some of these areas. And what we've realized is that when we have a poor relationship between skin and tendon, what ends up happening is it can create like an exoskeleton, right? So by freeing up this relationship, oftentimes we're able to restore motion, and then when we get motion in, we get nutrients in. So this is all ultimately about getting blood flow and motion back into here. But sometimes it's also just about decongesting and desensitizing it, right? We know we're going to get some more blood flow back in with movement, and with that intermittent compression, we may be able to take or change what's happening and how the brain is perceiving this, and we might be able to create a healthier tissue system, which is going to help us heal in the long haul as this desensitizes. So clearly, tendon loading is going to be important. Spending isometrics, end range, loading it is going to be important because it's a tendon, and so it needs to concentrically load, isometrically load, eccentrically load. But in the meantime, what do I do about it, Kel? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this thing up, and it's a little bit, I can go pretty snug down here. So I'm just going to take a bite on my Voodoo floss band, and I'm going to make sure that I capture the heel. So I've taken a couple wraps, and I've got the heel engaged here because I want to get the insertion and think about this connective tissue system running through the calf. It's just actually inserts all the way down here, and you can almost think of it as contiguous with the big toe, right? That big toe is that windlass mechanism that tightens up the plantar fascia, and that plantar fascia runs to the heel, and then we've got the calf running down. It's like this is just a junction, an intersection. So that plantar fascia is contiguous with the whole system, this posterior line and connective tissue, but what we're thinking is, hey, can I grab some of the connective tissue here to feed slack upstream? Can I improve the mechanics of the system? So now I'm going to go pretty tight over this Achilles. And the reason I can tolerate it, but I definitely need to just respect that if I start to go tingly, I'm going to pop it off. So I'm going to work my way up into where it starts to become sort of more common gastroc. You can see that tendon, that common tendon here between the soleus and the gastroc. So I'm just working my way up pretty far, but getting some of that common tendon because I'm still interested in, is my skin sliding all the way up here? Because if I have a tension system, I'm not going to get a lot of motion downstream. So now what I'm going to try to do is just get as much motion into this tissue as I can. So the idea is to try to restore how it's sliding, which means I don't need to squat, I just need to load this thing and take it to its end range. So even spending time on both toes and then just moving in as much range as I can. That will include, if I just work in this bent position, I may not be challenging that whole tissue system. As we've talked about before, we need to load in these long lever positions. So this long lever position puts my calf into a little bit different situation. So I can add motion back and forth and rotation. Back, I'm just adding this rotation through the knee. I can floss into this end range dorsiflexion and back and forth, but also I want to take that thing to its kind of near end ranges in flexion as well. So just pointing the toe into that plantar position, getting some movement is causing these tissues to bind up. And then I'll go back and I'm just going to play from big toe and even from this position coming up onto the big toe all the way down. How do I get the most excursion possible for 2 or 3 minutes? I'll pop this off. And again, what we're trying to do here is one, maybe we're decongesting. We're pulling off some congestion in that area, and that may change my symptoms, which is a win. That's good enough for me, whatever the mechanism is. 2, can I improve microcirculation to this tendon and tendon sheath? That can change how my brain is perceiving what's going on in these tissues. 3, I'm going to create a healthier environment. And 4, I may have just unloaded that system by restoring how it's sliding. When we're looking at the mechanics at the foot, these tissues should articulate over these osteofascial connections, which means connective tissue to bone. See how that slides even when my foot's in dorsiflexion? But when we see people who come in with Achilles pain, we push on their calves, they have pain, that's a problem. We grab their skin and see that it doesn't slide, that's a problem. So as we build our problem list, as we're changing environment, as we're working on mechanics, we start crossing things off. And if your skin doesn't slide over your tendon, that's an issue. Restore your sliding surfaces, get your systems back online. This is Voodoo Flossing, your calf